Welcome. I hope you enjoy the conversation you're about to hear between me and another comedian regarding comedy and religion. These are conversations I'm calling Disorganized Religion. God bless, and for those atheists out there, may nothing await you after this life.
Excellent. Well, welcome, nerds, to today's episode. It's going to be a little different for those of you watching. We've got Frank King online. He's based in New York.
I'm based in Eugene, Oregon, silly boy.
Eugene, Oregon. Oh, boy. I'm terrible.
That's all right.
The other coast.
It's the drugs.
Yeah, that's right. He has been doing comedy for forever.
34 years. Started the day after Christmas, 1985. Went on the road with my lovely girlfriend then, my wife now. 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop, no home.
Jeez.
Opened up for Seinfeld and Dennis Miller, Rosie O'Donnell, and Ellen DeGeneres, and Kevin Nealon, and Dana Carvey, and Adam Sandler. And back then they put you up comedy condos.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't just work together. We went home and drank beer and watched Letterman together. So
sure.
It was like the golden age of comedy clubs.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And then you wrote for The Tonight Show for 20 years.
Yeah, about somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, Jay became the permanent guest host of The Tonight Show. And Johnny was very mercurial.
Yeah.
He said he was staff on a Friday evening. I'm taking next week off.
Well, I mean, he could do what he wanted.
Yeah. Right? And Monday was always Best of Carson rerun. So that meant Jay had 4 nights, 18 jokes per monologue to put together over the weekend.
Yeah.
So he started this thing where he had guys faxing in jokes called fax writers.
Yeah.
And I knew a comic who was doing it. I asked him I got the paperwork, signed the independent contractor form, and I started submitting.
Yeah.
And it did that while he was guest hosting. And every now and then they would change the fax number and separate the wheat from the chaff, and I kept making the cut.
Yeah.
Finally, when he got the show for real, kept on the fax writers, I got the fax number. I had 2 jokes in his very first monologue.
Oh, wow.
Well, I know comics. I knew there was a 2-week break between Johnny and Jay, and I knew the comics, since they're mostly lazy because people don't go into comedy because they got a great work ethic.
Right.
I mean, I pounded the jokes in, and one was some guy in Texas got stung to death by bees. And I said, well, it wasn't killer bees. It was regular honeybees upset over the Rodney King verdict.
Yeah.
And the other one was Dan Quayle said that Murphy Brown, that sitcom character, had a child out of wedlock, which mocks the importance of fathers. And then Quayle actually said this: where would I have been without my dad? My punchline, my guess, Vietnam. Thank you. Killed.
That's great.
2 on the first show.
That's beautiful.
Biggest accomplishment.
That's excellent. And now you're doing, I guess you're known now as the mental health comedian.
Correct.
And you're doing motivational talks, TED Talks, corporate gigs all over the place.
Getting ready to do my 5th TED Talk.
Yeah.
In Durango, Colorado. Is it okay if I tell you what the title is? Because it's a little bawdy, a little adult. No dirty words, but it's a little out there.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely.
Now, bear in mind, Seth, I knew when I came up with this idea that not every TEDx committee would like it. And I got to tell you, I submitted it 13 times. On the 13th time, I got a phone call. She goes, we'd like you to come to TEDx. And I couldn't remember because I had 2 ideas I was submitting at the same time.
Yeah.
Which idea did I submit? She goes, Frank, let me read this. Mental health and the orgasm. Treat your depression single-handedly.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
She goes, we're putting you on after lunch to wake everybody up. Oh, I'll take care of that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yes,
well, congratulations.
This is one of my jokes. This is my second favorite handheld device. This iPhone.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be here all week trying the Astroglide.
Yeah.
All right.
And before all that, you were Episcopalian, right?
Yeah. I was raised Episcopalian, correct?
Yeah. Excellent. So, sorry, go ahead.
One flat, boring religion. Oh, my God.
Is that right?
Oh, God. Oh, Lord. My dad died at 40. My mom had to go to work. You ever seen the movie The Help?
Yes. Yeah.
African-American women? Yeah, well, I lived it. That was what the South was like when I was a kid. A friend of mine who grew up in the South didn't think there were young African-American women because he never saw anyone that was under a certain age. Because in his white neighborhood, and my mom was very liberal. My math teacher, Miss Hartley, came over for dinner one night when I was 6th grade. First black woman that had been in the neighborhood in a house that wasn't cleaning it.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. So my mom had to go to work full time after my dad died, and we had got a housekeeper, a maid, Magnolia, and she was a minister in the United Church of Christ. And so we would go, like every other week, we go to church with her, to the black church.
Yeah.
And the contrast was just, I mean, the Episcopalians
are subtle. Yeah.
They operate by the church calendar, so it's the same you could drop from space on the same week and the next year and they'd be doing the same. It's Epiphany. Oh, great. Okay. But the black church, I mean, there are people rolling in the aisles. Had a guy look at Mr. Bojangles, all bone and skin, playing the piano. People speaking in tongues. The only thing we didn't do was handle snakes.
Yeah.
And so it was just you're supposed to feel the spirit when you go to church. You could feel there was something in that church. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely missing.
Yeah.
When I go to church with an elderly friend, I'm an atheist, but my wife's oldest friend, literally, is an Episcopalian. That's a big part of her life, and I'm Episcopalian, so I know the drill. So I take her to church a couple Sundays a month, and there's a little kiosk, a coffee kiosk right next door. So I stop and get a triple shot of espresso over ice, so I can knock it down fast, and that gets me through the sermon. Yeah. Because otherwise, I'd be face down in a pool of my own saliva. It is just so boring.
Oh man! So you're still attending church, or not?
Yeah, with my elderly friend. She's 94. It's a big part of her life. That's kind of her social life.
Yeah.
And so I'm of the belief. Let's say you either hanging out with somebody old or somebody really young, like a child. My thing is, if you're gonna spend time with somebody like that, do what they like to do. As a kid, well, we're going to see a movie. Let's go Transformers last night. All right.
Yeah. Right. Of course.
If it's her life, it's what makes her happy, then why not, Yeah. So I go with her. And I enjoy the intellectual exercise. I enjoy debating, back and forth with the minister on certain scriptures and, and occasionally I'll actually heckle a little bit.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Should we talk about some lesson? And she goes, we're going to leave out all the raping and pillaging and whatever. And I go, no, that's the best part.
Yeah, leave that in. It's context.
Yeah, it took a little while for them to get used to me.
Sure.
But, it kind of wakes everybody up. And
yeah, of course.
Oh, wait. And they played one time. They decided to hip up the music a little bit. And so the song started. And I thought, this sounds like Amazing Grace. And there's like, Amazing Grace, how great thou art. Da, 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 da. I'm like,
no.
Are you kidding me?
The dirge.
Amazing Grace version. It's an anthem. When you get done with that song, you should be weeping.
Yeah.
When I saw Obama sing in that church in South Carolina, I wept. That's the way that song is meant to be done.
Right.
Who can wring the energy out of Amazing Grace? Well, the Episcopalians can, apparently, Seth.
Oh, fascinating. So what got you, I want to start first with your career in comedy. So what got you started in comedy?
Fourth grade. Had to wear glasses. I'm terribly vain. And back when I was a kid, Seth, we're talking, fourth grade would have been 1964. There were no fashion frames like you're wearing now.
Oh, sure.
No contact lenses. Yeah, they had guys had one frame, the Buddy Holly black plastic, very popular now, Ray-Ban.
Right.
Girls had cat eye glasses in a couple of colors.
Yeah.
And I hated them, but I needed them because my family is so nearsighted, Seth. I used to joke that we were from the island of myopia. And it was conquered over and over because we never saw anybody coming.
Yeah.
So the teacher decided that the thing to do is to desensitize the entire class to my glasses. Let's get this over with.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good idea. She got me to the front of the class, had me turn my back to the class, put my glasses on, turn back around, look at the class. She said this. She looks down. She goes, "Hey, see, you look intelligent." And I said, "Yes, that would explain the laughter." She excused herself, Seth, to go to the teacher's lounge at that moment. I had no idea why. And years later, in the Winn-Dixie, I bumped into her. She goes, "Frank, do you have any idea why I left class that morning?" I said, "Ms. Dark, I have no idea." She goes, "Because that was the funniest thing a child ever said to me. And I was afraid if I busted out laughing in front of you, it would just crush you somehow." So I ran down to the teacher's lounge and told them the story right then.
Yeah.
So that then when I got to high school, I took 3 years of drama, and I never got a good part. I was always in the chorus. And I'm not that bright, Seth, but by my senior year, second semester, I think I see a pattern. So it occurred to me that if I did stand-up, I could write, direct, and star my own little show every night. So I put together a stand-up routine, and turns out in 1975, I was the first person ever to do stand-up at the senior talent show. There's a picture in that yearbook of me in a suit where I look like a Waffle House manager.
Yeah.
and I did stand up. Then I told my mom, because it went well.
Yeah.
I said, I'm gonna be a comedian. She goes, you're going to college?
Yeah.
I don't care what you do when you're done. You can be a goat herder.
Yeah.
But you're going to be a goat herder with a degree.
Right.
So UNC Chapel Hill, degree in political science, labor management relations. This never hurt me any. I'm glad I went. Married my high school sweetheart, which is a mistake. She's a wonderful woman. We had nothing in common. But you know what they say, opposites attract. She was pregnant. I wasn't.
Right.
So, and I couldn't get a job. The UNC has a wonderful placement center.
Yeah.
I have literally interviewed, this is literal now, 77 times.
Wow.
No callbacks, no second, no I'm sure, but you know what? I got to think about years later. They're probably really good at their job, Seth. They looked at me and thought, this guy's a clown.
That's what they're all known for, is for placing people on their first try. Right?
Yes. 77, though. By the time I got to 75, 6, and 7, I didn't even bother dressing up. I just came straight from the intramural basketball game with the ball, bouncing the ball. Why we waste each other's time. Yeah. Yeah, we're wasting each other's time. I know you're not going to hire me or even bring me back. So her father worked for an insurance company. They happened to have an opening in marketing. There was an opening in Raleigh, where I was from. Got in. They moved us to San Diego, which was the beginning of the end of my insurance career, because there's a comedy store there.
Yeah.
And in terms of mental health, and I've done a TED Talk on this. It's called Suicide, the Secret of My Success. Dead Man Talking. Because what I realized at age 23 or 4, or whatever it was, that if I got depressed and suicidal because I was in the wrong marriage, a lovely woman, but we weren't meant to be together.
Right.
Wrong industry, insurance, great business, but I wasn't going to open mic night. And I had this thought, I'm going to kill myself sooner rather than later.
Interesting.
My second thought was, hey, I could divorce my wife, quit my job, try comedy. If it works, and I think it will, terrific. If it doesn't, I can still kill myself.
Sure.
That's how I got into comedy. And in the TED Talk, I say the power of that thought is I had absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah, right.
Because, if you were happily married and had a good job and you threw all that away to do comedy and it didn't work, your thought is, oh, man, I lost everything. Well, I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I've met several people, comics and others, entrepreneurs, who had the same basic thought process. In a life they didn't think they belonged in. If I don't get out of this and do something else, I'm going to kill myself. Hey! And I'm working on a book. Title is Life in the Exit Row, Starting the Conversation on Suicide. Because with chronic suicidality, which is what I have, it's always an option for me. My car broke down a couple of years ago. I had 3 thoughts unbidden, get it fixed, buy a new one. I could just kill myself.
Yeah.
And then the starting the conversation on suicide is a reason I get hired to speak. Over and over, the client goes, we just want somebody to come in here and start the conversation on suicide. And this past weekend, I'm in Minneapolis at a speaker marketing thing. And I said to the guy, I go, Mark, I can't think of like $1 million title for my book.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, Frank, I think I know what it is, but let's try this experiment. What does your client say to you when they hire you? Oh, we just want somebody to start the conversation on suicide. And he just waits. Oh my God, starting the conversation on suicide. So his thing is with speaking, you get a book and a title.
Yeah.
Now I bought the URL, starttheconversation.live, which I'll say is live.
Yeah.
And my keynote will be called Living in the Exit Row, Starting the Conversation. So you brand yourself with those 3 things: book, URL, and keynote title.
Right.
You become a brand. And by the way, since I've become a brand, I've raised my fee 3 times.
Good for you.
Yeah, I just got a note from a speakers bureau because I typed them. By the way, my fee's gone up at $7,500 to $15,000.
Yeah.
And she wrote back, and exactly why is it?
Because who else are you going to find?
Yeah, because, I know what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Find another speaker who can tell you that. Huh?
That's amazing.
Can I brag a little bit, Seth?
Yeah, please do.
I am this close to I booked a $10,000 one on October 8th after doing a safety convention. I booked one in February in Canada. For a big teacher association, 10 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm this close to one January 2nd and 3rd for 10 plus travel, less the commission to the speakers. So
hey, not bad. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, see, and here's the admission part of it. I've never raised my fee unless somebody said to me, "Man, you're too cheap." Another speaker.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I've been training speakers, and these kids come out of the chute at $5,000 a pop.
Yeah.
And if you are, come on, man, you wrote for a minute. So
Yeah.
every time somebody says that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good measure, right?
And anyway, yeah, it's, and unfortunately, suicide is a growth industry, 1 every 11 minutes in the U.S. Right. So it's just, and there's certain industries that I target. Construction is number 1 because they're the number 1.
Yeah.
Dentists, veterinarians, they're all trying.
Interesting. Not dentists.
Dentists not number 1. No.
Huh.
Used to be. When I opened my dental thing, I go, look, boys and girls, I got good news, I got bad news. Good news is you're not number 1 on the at-risk occupation list. Bad news is you're number 6 with a bullet.
Still
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah, still there.
Yeah. So anyway,
goodness. Interesting.
That's and I went from, after I came close to dying by suicide, when I sold insurance, Seth, I really liked those like Zig Ziglar guys, the motivational speakers.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could do that if I just had something to say.
Interesting.
But as a comic, I was like being funny, but not making a difference.
Yeah.
So after the close call and with my family history of my grandmother dying by my great aunt, and me coming close, and I read Judy Carter's book, Judy Carter of the Comedy Bible.
Yeah.
Wrote a book called The Message of You, Turning Your Life into a Money-Making Speaking Career, which is a fabulous subtitle.
Yeah.
So if you're a comic and you're thinking about making that jump and you're watching this podcast, get Judy's book, The Message of You. I'm telling you. And people always ask me, what's the difference between a comedian and a speaker? About $5,000 plus travel.
Yeah. Maybe a centralized message, right?
Yeah, but the problem is, again, comics don't get into the business because they got a great work ethic.
Right.
But anyway, Judy wrote that book, Message of You, and about halfway through, I thought, oh, man, I've got a message. And then I used that book to put my TED Talk together, my first one. And then there's a book called Talk Like TED, which is 9 things in every great TED Talk. So I got that one, and I refined the Judy one, 9 things. And I got picked by my first TEDx. The first time I applied, and that was it. That allowed me to rebrand with with the speakers bureaus and such, from a comic, what Judy would say, from a funny speaker to a speaker who's funny.
Right.
And that's when my fee started going up, because once you've got content, takeaways, learning objectives, once you can teach them something, then the meeting planner can go, well, there's the ROI.
Yeah.
So
excellent. So had you not always been talking about mental illness in your stand-up?
No, I didn't come out until that TED Talk. Nobody in my family knew. My wife didn't know. My friends didn't know. Matter of fact, the TED Talk posted on Thanksgiving in 2014. My wife's about to push the button to play, and I go, hold on. We should probably have a little chat before you.
Disclaimer. Yeah. I don't want you to find out this way.
Watching me, like, what the?
In front of hundreds of people.
This is you? This is you.
Yeah, it was a script.
So, and what I discovered was, hardly anybody talks about it, which is another reason they're willing to pay me that kind of money, because most people won't get up and say I'm crazy. And I gave up my self-respect and pride in the bankruptcy. I couldn't care less. But the coming out like that, and as I was researching the TED Talk, I realized people don't talk about depression and suicide unless you mention it out loud. And then people tell you the most amazing. I'm working a cruise boat. Yeah. And it's I do about 12 weeks a year on the boats. It's Holland America. Usually the longer cruises, older passengers. Yeah. And because I'm older and seem to get along with them. And I just did 10 days out of a 115-day world cruise. We're talking old people and their parents.
Oh, wow.
Every night, same thing for dessert, oxygen. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so much white hair in the theater, it looked like a Q-tip convention. Anyway, I'm on the ship and I can't find a place to sit in the Lido for breakfast. So I look over, there's a woman, table for 2, empty chairs. So I point, she nods, I sit.
Yeah.
And she looks up, she goes, hey, are you the comedian? I go, hey, did you enjoy the comedy show? She goes, I really did. I said, then I'm the comedian.
Yeah.
She starts laughing. She goes, what would you have said if I told you I hated it? They tell me I look a lot like him. She asked me, do you do comedy? Is this all you do, cruise comedy? I said, no, I do about 12 weeks a year. I'm a public speaker. And I said, oh, listen, I hope you don't mind me bragging. I just nailed down my first TED Talk.
Yeah.
She goes, I love the TED Talks. What's the topic? Okay, Seth, I've had this conversation many times.
Yeah.
I knew what was coming. So I said to her, depression and suicide. Started to count down in my head. 3, 2, 1.
Right.
She goes, try to kill myself twice. We just met. First time in college.
Interesting.
Not serious, she said. Second time, far more serious, Frank. She goes, I had graduated college. I graduated medical school. I had the knowledge, had the equipment. She said, I had the IV started in my ankle.
No kidding.
Suicide cocktail in one hand, syringe in the other, getting ready to load them up, and the phone rings.
Jeez.
Now she's conflicted. Do I pick up the phone? Well, she thought, better pick up the phone.
Right.
Because might be somebody who'd worry, come over, interrupt.
Yeah.
Picks up the phone, 13-year-old son.
Jeez.
Yep. She goes, I don't know if you heard something in my voice, had a premonition, but he said, Mom, don't do anything. So I didn't. I didn't give up on the idea of suicide, but I decided not to do it that day because I knew he'd always feel guilty when there's something he could do or say to stop me. And there are things you could do. There are things you could say. So I said to her, how old is he now? She goes, he's 21. I said, does he know his phone call saved your life? And this is where my book title came in 2014, but I never didn't tumble to it till 5 years later. I said, does he know his phone call saved your life? She goes, no. How do you start that conversation? Should have started writing the book right then.
Yeah.
But that became the theme of my first TED Talk, start the conversation, because that's all it really takes is somebody to, to step up. It's you know how it is when you're at a dance and the band's playing, there's nobody on the dance floor. And then one couple goes out and starts dancing, and all of a sudden,
everybody goes out.
Or you're in a comedy club.
Yeah.
Nothing better in a comedy club than one big laugher, somebody to break that ice and laugh really hard to give everybody else cover.
Yeah.
So that's how it is with what I do is I and then conversations ensue after I come in and what I do is I do Q&A after the keynote, the general Q&A. Then I tell the audience, look, if you got a question you want to ask, you don't want to ask in front of everybody. Like, I'm crazy. Can you help me?
Yeah.
See me afterwards. I'll stay till everybody gets their questions answered. Did a show on Tuesday. We did the Q&A. I got done. 6 people lined up.
Right.
And oftentimes they've got chronic suicidality. They didn't know it had a name. They thought there was some kind of freak. They believed they were alone. And the relief for them is palpable.
Yeah.
When they realize they're not alone.
Right.
So here's the upshot, Seth. And then I'll let you talk.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm having you on. You're the whole reason we're here.
Everybody knows you. I realized because I was in Montana in Billings after a college show. It's dark. It's snowing. There's street lights not far, so I'm kind of in a half light. Kid's going to get the truck to pick me up. So I picked the snowing, half light. I'm thinking about all the people that maybe I took them just far enough off that path to suicide they might survive.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, dear God, you know what? I'm George Bailey, and It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
An angel, maybe the one that kept me from pulling the trigger, has shown me what these people's lives would be like if I were not here to speak for them to hear me.
Right.
And my next thought was, oh, God, I can't shoot myself or kill myself because I would take all these people with me. Okay, here's where the comic kicks in. Then the comic kicks in and goes, and they probably pursue you through eternity.
Yeah.
You were coming to Phoenix the next week. You couldn't wait a week.
Oh, my goodness. So what saved you when you came close?
Oh, well, it's very simple. It's almost analog. I mean, it's not like some kind of spiritual. When you are suicidal, people say after suicide, very selfish. Well, you know what? To the person who's thinking about it, it's just the opposite.
Right. You're doing everyone else a favor, right?
Exactly. The world would be better off without you. And I had $1 million life insurance policy. So if I killed myself.
1,000,000 times better. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually worth more dead than alive.
Right.
And my wife would be heartbroken, but she could, be restored financially.
Sure.
Still have to work, but wouldn't have to worry about where, the next meal was coming from. So I called my insurance agent because I knew, having sold insurance, there's a 2-year suicide clause in the policy. So yourself, anytime in the first 24 months, they just give you the premiums back.
Yeah.
After 24 months, cha-ching, $1 million.
Yeah.
So I call my insurance agent. We're chit-chatting away, and I'm just pretending like nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
People with mental illness are great actors.
Yeah.
And I said to him, how long have I had that policy? Just offhandedly. And he's clack, clack, clack. And he goes, 22 months. And then it hit him. He goes, and don't do it.
Wow.
Because he had people call, ask that question, and then a couple of months later delivered the check.
Yeah. And
he said that when he heard me, when he realized what I was asking, not just how long I had the policy, but for permission to kill myself.
Yeah.
He said a quick prayer that he hoped to God whatever he said next would make a difference.
Yeah.
He said, don't do it. I said, look, Graham, here's the deal. And I tell my audience is this. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's say something. Whatever occurs to you, say something. Right. He said when he hung up, he told his wife, I think Frank's going to kill himself. Well, ironically, Seth, because of my chronic suicidality and the fact I'm willing to do it, open the exit door and jump out at any time.
Yeah.
That allowed me to go 2 months because I thought, well, I can make 2 months.
What's the difference? Yeah.
As long as a friend of mine said, if I didn't have my chronic suicidality, I'd have killed myself a long time ago. Sure. As long as it's on the table.
Yeah, it's there forever, right?
Yes. So that's the irony of this. That's why I didn't pull the trigger. And, of course, then it became my career. I mean, it's as you now know, they're going to pay me 10 grand for 45 minutes.
Yeah, not bad.
So is it getting better than that? As a friend of mine says, you're making more money than if you walked into that conference room with a gun and robbed everybody.
Yeah, that's probably true. Oh, not everybody's that liquid. They don't have that much currency on it.
No, that's right. No, give me the watch.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So that's how I got from comedy to speaking, and
yeah. So it was not an open topic in your family, even though you found out later that members of your family had suffered from it.
It wasn't in my mother's generation. It was worse than that. It was, and here's a trigger alert for anybody listening. What I'm about to talk about is very disturbing. So if you have issues with depression, suicide, I don't want to trigger anybody who's watching this. So just trigger alert. This is going to be very disturbing. Just mute it for about 3 minutes and come back. When my mother found my grandmother, my great aunt wouldn't answer the phone. My mother got worried. We drove over. We let ourselves into the apartment. Everything was fine except all the food that should have been in the refrigerator, the butter, the milk, the eggs, the cheese was on the counter.
Oh.
It was one of those old lock type refrigerators back in the day that when once you're in, you can't get out.
Right.
So my great aunt had decided to end her life. She had glaucoma. She didn't want to be dependent on anybody.
Yeah.
And of course, family history. So she crawls in there, pulls the door to behind her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Then she tried to claw her way out, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and passed away. And my mom didn't connect the eggs and the milk and the cheese in the refrigerator. So I'm holding onto her skirt, and we walk over. She opens the door.
Yeah.
My great aunt falls out on me and pins me to the floor.
Oh my gosh.
Well, somehow in my mind, I apparently screamed for days, but I compartmentalized that. So the family came up with a legend.
Okay.
If asks, when does mom open that door? Great aunt was sitting there with her very, very serene, with her hands folded in prayer, because she was very religious.
Yeah.
That was the legend. So 2012, my cousin has a restaurant in Raleigh. We were chit-chatting away, and I mentioned that incident, and he goes, "What? Folded in prayer?"
Oh no, he wasn't part of the pact?
He knew, because he was 10 years older than I was.
Oh, okay.
But he figured, he goes, no, the old bat fell out on you. And all of a sudden, whatever was holding that back in my head just fell away. And I'm like, oh.
No kidding.
Yeah,
so
again,
reconstructed the memory according to legend.
Like, boom. Oh, God, look at this. Oh.
Oh, my gosh.
No putting it back.
Yeah.
But again, that was part of the process when I realized I had something to, it's called lived experience. It's called lived experience in the mental health business. So I have some lived experiences that people just go, oh God.
Not ready to reapproach the reality.
No, but but mine and my sister's generation, my cousins, it's all out in the open.
Yeah.
And trust me, everybody except that one cousin, by the way, owns a restaurant. Two things. He didn't inherit the family high cholesterol, and he didn't inherit the mental illness. But everybody else in the family, Seth, my family's nuttier than a 25-pound bag of squirrel food. They're all on something.
Sure.
And everybody's out about it.
That's great.
So the nieces and nephews, if they have an issue, it's not like you got to hide it. Just tell mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the network of therapists and psychologists going, right?
Medication. Oh, and by the way, here's a little piece of information. I'm amazed not that many people know.
Yeah.
Because when I speak, somebody comes up, my antidepressant's not working. Well, have you done the cheek swab DNA thing? What? Like Ancestry. They do a cheek swab, and they take your DNA, and they try to match it with, let's say, the couple of antidepressants that work best with your metabolism. So it cuts down on the lab rat, go on, taper off, go on, taper off.
Yeah.
I sat next to a pharmacist yesterday on the plane. She works for Rite Aid. She actually hires pharmacists now, but she works for Rite Aid. She goes, Frank, that's $40 at Rite Aid. What? You don't need a prescription? No, it's $40 at Rite Aid. You do this, you put it in, it's in the mail, you get. I thought, oh my God, how come nobody knows about this?
Yeah.
She goes, it's amazing technology. I mean, it's not, it's not 100%, but it's certainly close. It's not like throwing darts in the dark.
Enough, right?
Yeah, so I would recommend if you're not happy with the medication or it's not working, haven't got the right cocktail, have the DNA cheek swab and
that's Rite Aid.
Yeah, and because back then when I first heard about it 4 years ago, it was a very short list they were testing it against, and of course now it's like this. And now it used to be a couple $100, had to have a prescription, but $40. And some insurances pay.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, she said, Frank, tell your friends.
Interesting.
Right.
Well, there you go. Cheek swab, if unhappy.
Yep.
So, and you said you came from a religious family.
My dad taught senior Sunday school.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother was. My mother was not. She said, I can't go to church because I don't have a hat. Because back then, women had to wear a hat at church.
Right.
When she passed away, in the upper part of her closet, we found a dozen hats. So the hat thing wasn't.
So that was not the reason.
Not the reason.
No. Interesting. All right. And your dad was Episcopalian.
Yeah, and he taught adult Sunday school.
Yeah.
And you know, I wish I could have known him as an adult. Apparently, he was a great guy. He taught the Sunday school class, and most of the Sundays they talked about one passage or other, or whatever. But occasionally he would do something just off the wall. He taught all his guys the Roth memory course. You know, how to remember names, how to remember. You know, it's Roth apparently was a big thing back in the '60s. It was a memory course.
Right.
And my mother saw one of his students from the adult Sunday school years later, and he said, "Are you Dixie King?" My mom's name's Dixie. Yes. Well, I was one of your husband's students in Sunday school, and I just wanted to tell you that I really enjoyed his lessons, but particularly for a couple of months, all he did was he taught us the Roth memory system. And he said after that point, I didn't really think much of myself. I didn't really think I had much to offer, or I wasn't really going anywhere. And then I was able to study and master that course. And he goes, it changed my life.
Yeah.
I realized there were things I could do if I put my mind to it.
Yeah.
So you never know what sort of impact, and that has nothing to do with religion. But my dad was just that kind of guy. You know, he felt it valuable for young men to know this course if you're going to be in sales or whatever job. So he didn't ask anybody; he just taught it.
Just did it.
Yeah. So because sometimes church is about life lessons.
Right.
Magnolia, the woman who was our maid, said that the church is a couple things. She said, "Stick with me." It's not just about worship; it's about fellowship and friendship. She says, "I'd rather see a sermon than hear one." And that church is not a haven for the holy; it's a hospital for the sinners.
Yeah.
She was quite the. And when the Episcopal minister preached at my mother's funeral.
Not that great. Huh?
No, and we had to convince him. No, Magnolia is going to speak because she knew her intimate. I mean, she knew her from the time my dad passed away.
Yeah.
So she spoke, and I mean, you could feel the church just going like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you knew she knew her and felt the pain, and you know what I mean. It was and she was almost illiterate. My maid was Magnolia. Yeah. And when she got on stage, when she got on the pulpit, you would never know it. She never wrote it. I always ask her how she never wrote the sermon down. Well, now I know because she couldn't write.
Yeah, she knew.
Yeah, she said, God will provide it for me. And so she would get up into the pulpit, and I mean, I was waiting for balls of fire to come out of her, because she truly felt. Yeah. Now, bear in mind, her former religion was a little bit Santeria, which she didn't know what that was. A little bit of mysticism, a little bit of United Church of Christ. She would say things like, I had a vision. Bear in mind, I'm 8, my sister's 6.
Yeah.
I saw somebody standing down by the fence, down by the street in a black dress like they just came back from a funeral. I said, and having lost a parent now, I said, Magnolia, whose funeral? I don't know. Well, that's not helpful. Scared the bejesus.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and she had those kind of things all the time. One time she said there's going to be an earthquake in North Carolina. So my sister and I went around the neighborhood banging on doors, warning everybody of the impending earthquake.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, there was a tornado. And I was so scared because I thought that's what it was. I threw up.
Yeah.
And I said to Magnolia, she goes, I predicted that. I go, no, you predicted an earthquake. She said, earthquake, tornado, same thing.
It was a natural disaster.
Yeah, it was a natural disaster.
Did the earth move a little bit? Sure.
Detail.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was an interesting upbringing with Magnolia and the two, the contrast in the, in the religions. Yeah,
interesting. So what led you away from your faith? Or did you ever feel really connected to it in the first place?
No, it never made any sense to me. And then the older I got, I find the Bible, although full of good advice, it's a bit misogynistic. It's a bit colloquial. I mean, I believe that that part of the world flooded back in the day. I don't believe Noah put giraffes on the boat, by the way. Probably the cows and the pigs and everybody with anything edible got on first.
Sure.
But it's I don't believe the whole earth was covered by water. I believe the earth as they knew it was covered by water.
Right.
There's again a lot of good advice in the Bible, but there's some stuff missing to me. I mean, if I knew everything and I'm inspiring people to write a book, I might mention, the earth goes around the sun.
Sure.
On a more practical note, make sure you put the outhouse below the well, not above the well. That would seem, like maybe a separate chapter on practical.
Yeah. But it's not all a practical book, right? And I mean, how important is it for us to know that the earth revolves around the sun?
Not as important as it is to put the outhouse below the well, so you don't have waterborne illnesses.
Right.
And again, it's very misogynistic. It's the reason I get along with a lot of conservative Christians is because I am as foursquare in my disbelief. I mean, I'm committed, and they're committed.
Yeah.
The people I cannot abide are the agnostics.
Sure.
Because as far as I can tell, they're just covering their bets. Well, look, I never said you didn't exist.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Sure. So can I get in?
Yeah. Well, there is, you have that in common with God, right? There is a Bible verse that says he'll spew the tepid, right, out of his mouth.
There you go. Lord, I don't want to be the tepid. I'd rather go up and say, and have him go to me, Frank,
I am surprised that you are here.
I didn't, a friend of mine made a joke about that when I had my had number of heart surgeries.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't want to go to Frank's. I picture myself, he said, going to Frank's funeral and thinking about Frank, arriving and praying about Frank after he's passed away.
Yeah.
And then hearing from God, and what God would say is, I'm sorry, Frank who?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
that guy.
It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make. I mean, it's and I'm not a big fan of my way or the highway sort of religions where there's one and
right.
God seems a little bit insecure. Thou shalt have no other whatever than me.
He admits he's jealous.
Say again.
I said he does admit that he's a jealous God.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't matter. You got to worship him. I mean, if you're all powerful, do you really need that kind of reinforcement?
Right.
Yeah, so it just doesn't make it amazes me. Otherwise intelligent people in this day and age still believe in, the sky wizards. But two things. One, I understand they take great comfort from that, and so I have no argument about it. If it works for you, for goodness sakes. Matter of fact, when I'm counseling somebody or talking to somebody who's depressed, suicidal, if they have a strong faith in God or whatever God or whatever, I try to leverage that.
Yeah.
Please then go home and pray and find strength in your religion.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not religious, but if it works for them,
right.
Who am I?
Right.
They,
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I tell my people when I'm doing my keynotes, look, and when you arrive at a scene, if you think somebody's depressed and suicidal, and you're talking to them, don't try to overlay your religious beliefs on top of their religious beliefs.
Oh, right.
If you firmly believe you're going to go to hell if you die by suicide, if they don't believe that, then let's leave that out.
Yeah, don't tell them that.
No, don't tell them that. If that's not their belief, so you meet them where they are, wherever they are religiously, you find them and you reinforce. To leverage that to keep them alive.
Sure.
And I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I've often said I wish I did believe in a God, because it would make life a lot easier. You got something to look forward to, and
yeah.
I've got a friend of mine who said,
I wonder about, I guess, religion, because in Mormonism there is, I guess, a stigma against those who suffer from mental illness. There's not much talk about going to see a therapist. I think that's gotten much, much better with younger generations. But I wonder if you found that as well with your religious upbringing, that maybe that was a reason people didn't talk about the mental health issues. It was like, you should just be more righteous, pray it away or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, the Episcopals aren't that conservative of of a religion. I've got a friend who's a Baptist minister, and he believed, until we had a long chat, that, it was demons, and and then if you're stronger in your belief in Christ, and I bump into it all the time. On the college campus, a kid came up to me. He was obviously troubled.
Yeah.
And I said, tell your folks, African American, which by the way has a higher rate of suicide because they tend not to come out to the family and friends because of cultural things. And he said, yeah, I told my folks, and they gave me a Bible and the minister's phone number. And I said, well, that's a good start.
Yeah. I mean, it could be helpful to talk about it, right?
Yeah, and if you can find a Bible-based therapist that has your beliefs, that's great.
Yeah.
I said, but here's the deal. You're away from home. You're on campus. It's included in your student fees. There's a mental health center. Nobody will know back home. Yeah. You might go in there and get evaluated.
Sure.
Then when you get home, find a religious-based therapist.
Right.
For your denomination. And that will probably be very helpful.
Right.
But yeah, and the Episcopals are, they're like Catholics, almost all the ceremony and none of the guilt.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's very, it's very, they have gay and lesbian, priests, and I think there's a lesbian woman who's heading up the whole shooting match.
Yeah.
So they're, they're very big tent liberal sort of. Yeah. So it wasn't mental health, but back when I was a kid, nobody talked about it.
Right. I mean, I think there was just a social stigma at the time against it.
Yeah, and I think it still exists. I think when I talk, people ask me about that. I said, look, alcoholism 50, 60 years ago, there's a reason alcoholics were anonymous.
Yeah.
Because people thought it was a moral failing and a character flaw.
Yeah.
And so mental illness is still kind of right there for a lot of people.
Right.
You pull yourself up by your bootstraps if you were stronger.
Right.
I don't know what you think about our president, but I would personally shoot him for this.
Yeah.
He said, people come back from Iraq and Afghanistan who are strong don't get PTSD. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, God. It has nothing to do with strength.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, it's not about strength. Oh, God.
No, not at all.
But there is that.
That thought, right?
A general in the Air Force on a stand down where they shut everything down on the base, Air Force base, to talk about suicide prevention, said, if you die by suicide, if an airman dies by suicide, that means he or she is chicken poop. But he didn't say poop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, God. Oh, Lord. Of course, he apologized later, but there's still that, depending on generation and part of the country and how you feel about it. And men especially, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, Seth. 8 out of 10 people who die by suicide in the U.S. now are men, age 45, 54, mostly Caucasian men.
Yeah, I believe that.
In part because they won't reach out.
Right. Yeah, well, we can't be weak, No,
it can't be seen as weak unless there's a paycheck in it. Then I'm an invertebrate. That's fine.
Yeah. So how do you, I guess I'm thinking of two other questions. I'm not sure exactly which order to ask them, but you're talking about you're talking to your insurance agent and he sort of has this premonition, this is where you're headed. And so he says what he says. You're talking to the woman on the cruise ship and she has, what I would term a miracle, right? With her daughter calling or her son.
Phone rang. Yeah.
Right. I mean, how do you view those? Or is that just coincidence or?
I would say, although in each case, and there's a dentist I talked to who works in Canada, she had something happen with her hand. And so she was no longer able to practice, but she still owned a practice. She thought that would do, and then it didn't.
Yeah.
And she was standing on a stool in her garage with a rope around her neck, about to do it, and she had her cell phone on her, and the cell phone rang, and she looks, and it's a patient, so she picks it up. Yeah. The patient had broken a tooth or something. Couldn't you come in? And it's like a weekend. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll be right there. So in her mind,
helps, huh?
in her mind, it's a miracle. So again, depending on your particular,
your outlook, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't believe in a lot of accidents, or coincidence. I'm more of a karma.
Interesting.
Things that seem to happen for, I'm not saying everything happens for a reason, but you bump into somebody and you're like, I can't believe how did this happen? How did this happen? So not that there's a master plan, but I think I'm not a big believer in coincidence. I think, oftentimes things happen for a reason. By that same token, there are people who overdose and they're hoping that someone would come home.
Right.
And then they stop by the convenience store, didn't get there in time. And so
Yeah, of course.
Now, one last note on the religion. A friend of mine who's a very conservative Christian said, "You're an atheist because you want to be able to do whatever it is you want to do."
Oh, right. Well, that's what I would think growing up. I've changed my view on that, but
no rules, like Outback, no rules, just right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, no. Think of it this way: I have to make that moral call over and over because I don't have a book.
Right.
I'm not going to be either punished for misbehaving or rewarded for behaving.
Sure. Well, you may not think so, Frank. You might not think so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, over a beer in heaven. Frank, I told you. So I have to make those calls based on my. And somebody said, well, where do you get morals from? Well, my mom was not particularly religious, but she was a very moral woman. She would never do anything to her advantage that would hurt someone else. Matter of fact, she went out of her way to help a lot of people, which I learned at her knee. So it'd be a lot easier if I had a book, a book of regulations, the teacher's manual.
Right.
So I would know, well, should I do that? Oh, no. Not wear a piece of clothing made out of 2 different fibers. I can't do that. That's an abomination. There's another one. 2 men lying together, that's an abomination. Well, did you enjoy the shrimp at Red Lobster? You're going to have to give that up. Are you nearsighted? You can't approach the altar without perfect vision.
Right.
It would be easier if I had a book of do's and don'ts.
Yeah. Do you feel like, when I've talked to people, there's a sense of inner knowledge that you just know what is right and wrong?
That's the way I feel. Again, by my, I think it has a lot to do with your upbringing, how you were raised.
Yeah.
A good upbringing, as my mom would say, is instill in you values, morals, values. I think it's just and either you develop it over time.
Right. Well, I think there are even instances of children who are not raised perfectly well, right, with an abusive father or mother or whatever, who still know, oh, that's wrong.
That's wrong.
Now they might not be able to break the cycle of abuse, but it seems like there's still this inner sense.
Yeah, and that's a compass, like a moral compass.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I do my best. And my conservative Christian friends, by the way, the one in particular, the Baptist minister, he said to me, Frank, you know what? You live your life closer to the teachings of Jesus Christ than a lot of my Christian friends.
Right.
So as Magnolia would say, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just imagine how they would be without religion.
Oh God.
Much more.
Oh Lord.
More murder and mayhem in this world.
By the way, I know this looks odd. I was doing a coaching call. I'm ghostwriting a book for a guy.
Yeah.
And at 55-minute mark, we've been 55 minutes talking.
Yeah.
And he goes, listen, I just got to ask, what in the world is wrong with that eye? I go, well, I got high and only half my brain apparently.
Right.
No, I take blood thinners for my heart valve, and every now and then, and I think it had to do with flying this week because the pressure changes. I think the pressure changed too fast and a blood vessel popped. In a couple of days, it'll be gone.
Yeah.
But it does look like I'm a zombie.
No, you're fine. I was just going to ignore it completely.
Yeah, good boy. But I thought your viewers, if you're doing this on video, might go, well, why did he ask about that eye?
Yeah, well, he's the mental health comedian and the red eye comedian. That's what he's known for.
I took a red eye flight. Thank you.
So what's your view of the afterlife? Is there anything that waits? Nothing.
No, I think everything. I believe everything in the universe is connected at a molecular level. I think that when we see ourselves, like I see myself separated physically. I mean, physically, I'm separated from the desk and the trees and the whatever. But I think we're all of this is connected at some sort of molecular level. And I believe, nothing's created or destroyed, just changes form. So that if there is a place to go, I'll just go where everybody, I'm hoping, go where everybody else went. Who's
sure. But that place can't include a God.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
Although it's ironic, I lie in bed sometimes at night. We have 2 dogs, and they're sleeping in crates with us. And the cats are all piled up on the bed, and it's warm and cozy, and everybody's in good health. And I lie there in the dark, and I think to myself, if heaven isn't just like this, I'm not going.
What would be the point? Right?
Why bother? Yeah. It's. But I believe heaven and earth exist for us here. You want to do as much good work as you can while you're here, and at the very least, do no harm.
Right.
And do as much good as you can.
Yeah.
It's and Why did I pull up short? Why did I pull up short 22 months? Because 24 months a day I'd be gone. So
yeah.
You got to wonder.
Yeah. Well, what is that reason? Why?
There was it. There are many things in heaven and earth that something. I quote about it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I try to live a good life and help as many people as I can, and I take great joy in helping people. Which reminds me, are you going to be doing? Do you post videos of this or just the audio?
I do video on YouTube, and then I'll post audio on the podcast.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I try to encourage podcasters because YouTube transcribes it, so there'll be a script, which means keywords and SEO. Hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah. No, this will be up on Anchor and iTunes, Google Play, all the Spotify, everywhere.
Yeah. Well, the great new thing about Google Play, I think it's relatively new, is they transcribe it as well. So when Google's looking, they hear the Google machine hears the audio and looks over the text. That's just
that freaks some people out, Frank. You're getting some scary,
It's 62 that I know that. It's pretty freaky.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate the conversation. You strike me as a very good person. So I feel like when you meet God, he'll overlook probably.
I'm hoping when I get there, because look, Frank, at least you're not an agnostic,
Yeah, exactly.
I got to ask you before I leave, because a lot of people don't know we had you and your mom on our Suicide Prevention Punchline podcast.
Yeah, fantastic podcast.
How's your mom?
Oh, my mom is doing well. Yeah, she's doing well.
As we say down south, please tell her I ask after her.
Yeah, I will. Absolutely. Bless her heart.
And I will contact you if we start that television version of the mental health comedy tour, because we're going to need good, solid comics who are willing to talk about mental health.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Anything else you want to plug for yourself?
If people want to find me, thementalhealthcomedian.com. And make sure you put my phone number in the show notes. Can I give it to you? I guess I can give it to you.
Yeah. Do you want to email it and I'll put it in?
Yeah. And the reason I do that is when I do my keynote, I say, look, if you're suicidal, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline or text, 741-741.
Yeah.
If you're just you're mentally ill and having a really bad day, call somebody who's crazy.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to be judgmental. We're not going to tell you what you should be doing. We're not going to recommend fish oil.
Right.
We're just going to listen.
Yeah.
And so I tell people, look, I'm going to put my cell phone number in the show notes. If you're having a really bad day and just need to talk to somebody, want to co-sign your BS, as a friend of mine says, call me. And it's amazing. The phone will ring. I'll pick it up. And I go, hey. And they go, oh, my God, that really was yourself? Well, yeah, duh. What, would I tease somebody who's circling the drain? Come on. How bad is that?
Yeah, that'd be so messed up.
Karma.
Just got this, have you done it yet? Message.
Yeah. Please hold. Here's the music while you wait. Highway to hell. Oh, but wait, I got one last joke for you.
Please.
What was it? Another one bites the dust, and another one down. And I know. When I do some of these speeches, I put up a countdown clock on the screen.
Uh-huh.
And I started at 11 minutes. And I say, at this moment in this country, one person has 11 minutes to live. And I start the clock. So they're watching that clock, and they're watching me. They're watching that clock. And I was at this function last month, and the guy goes, Frank, listen, let's let the clock run down to 0, and then I'll kick on the music. Another one down, another one bites the dust, and another one gone. Oh, man, that is so wicked, and I wish I could still do it.
It's like the last thing they need, right?
I know, but that's
coming out.
Comics love dark comedy sets. You know how that is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. That's why when I do too many open mics and go to a real show, people are like, "Oh no, this is not okay."
This is not. But I love the darker the better. It's just the comics in the back are laughing. The people in the audience are,
what is happening right now?
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody definitely check out Frank King. He's hilarious, as you can tell.
Yeah. And if you're, having a really bad day, give me a holler.
Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Frank.
See you, Seth.
Bye.